Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about award shows.
Okay.
Award shows like the Grammys and the CMAs.
Right.
Specifically, we're going to be looking at how they deal with race and genre and, artistic excellence. And we've got a whole bunch of different sources.
Right.
Opinion pieces, analyses, and even like historical deep dives into this.
Ah.
And one name just keeps popping up over and over again as like a case study.
Interesting.
For all the contradictions and all the problems with this system. And that's Beyoncé.
Yeah, her career is fascinating from this perspective.
It really is.
You know what's striking to me is how much it highlights the limitations of how we even categorize music.
Yeah.
Particularly at the Grammys.
Right.
We see this with several of her albums, like Lemonade, Beyoncé, Renaissance,
Mm-hmm.
where like all this innovation and critical acclaim just doesn't turn into wins.
Oh, so you're talking about the classic argument that the Grammys love to put black artists in a box.
Yeah, but it's more nuanced than just like black music versus everything else.
Okay.
Our sources actually dig into specific subgenres, and we start to see a pattern.
Interesting.
Take urban contemporary, for example. That category was created back in the 80s.
Right.
And it was meant to recognize black artists.
Okay.
But it's become this catch-all that lumps together everything from R&B and hip-hop to even Afrobeat.
So they're basically saying all those genres are the same.
Yeah, the implication is that they're all interchangeable, which is so not true.
And that has real consequences for artists, right?
Absolutely.
Because winning in a niche category doesn't carry the same weight as like winning Album of the Year.
Exactly. It reinforces this idea that those genres are less universally appealing or even like artistically significant.
Wow.
One source even argues that this creates a hierarchy within black music itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm curious how...
So, for example, neo-soul artists like Erykah Badu.
Okay.
She's been nominated across multiple genres,
Right.
but rarely wins.
While more commercially driven R&B often gets recognized in urban contemporary.
Huh. So there's this internal hierarchy, even within a category, meant to represent black artists.
Right.
That's fascinating. But you mentioned Beyoncé specifically.
Yeah.
What do her losses tell us about this whole system?
Her losses, especially for Lemonade, highlight this disconnect between critical acclaim and industry recognition.
How so?
This album was groundbreaking.
Yeah, it really was.
In so many ways.
I mean, the themes, the visual storytelling, the musicality.
But it lost Album of the Year.
To Adele.
Yeah, to Adele's 25.
Right.
Which was a massive commercial success.
For sure.
But some argue it wasn't all that innovative.
Yeah.
Which just fuels this criticism that the Grammys favor familiarity over risk-taking.
Well, for sure. And then there's that moment during Adele's acceptance speech.
Oh, yeah.
That I don't think anybody will ever forget.
When she pretty much said Beyoncé should have won.
Yes. It was so awkward, but also, like, kind of respectful.
It was a gesture of respect, but it also highlighted the awkwardness of the situation.
Totally.
Adele, a white artist known for pretty traditional pop, acknowledging that a black artist who was pushing boundaries was probably more deserving.
You know, some might even say that Adele's speech accidentally puts Beyoncé in a position where she needs validation from a white artist.
Right.
Which is like a whole other can of worms.
It really is. It raises this question. Can gestures like that even be meaningful without also reinforcing the power dynamics
that they're trying to critique?
Yeah, it's complicated.
Our sources really seem to be struggling with this.
Absolutely.
It's like the Grammys are stuck in this loop of rewarding what's safe.
Right.
While also acknowledging that something bigger
and bolder
and more culturally significant is happening somewhere else.
It's strange.
It really is. And that brings us to another artist who embodies this.
Who's that?
Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, yeah.
His album, To Pimp a Butterfly.
Incredible album.
It really is.
So experimental, so ambitious.
But it lost Album of the Year, too, didn't it?
To Taylor Swift's 1989.
And that loss just reignited this whole debate about the Grammys.
For sure.
Do they care about artistry?
Or just commercial success?
And then we also have to talk about the voting power of different fan bases.
Yeah, that's a huge part of this conversation.
Okay, so let's talk Taylor Swift.
All right.
The sources definitely don't hold back when it comes to her.
Yeah.
Some even argue that none of her albums should have won Album of the Year.
That's a pretty strong statement.
It is, but it's not about, like, hating on her or anything.
Right.
It's more about why her type of art always seems to win.
Her music is popular.
Super popular.
But it's often seen as playing it safe.
Yeah.
You know, catering to a specific audience without necessarily challenging anything.
Like Kendrick or Beyoncé.
Right.
And a lot of sources point out that her fan base is mostly white and affluent.
Yeah, and that raises questions about demographics and voting power.
So is it possible that the people who vote for the Grammys are just more likely to vote for certain types of music?
It's definitely worth considering.
Like the system is built to reward a certain type of artist with a certain type of fan base.
And it makes it so much harder for anyone outside that hold to break through.
No matter how innovative they are.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so we've got a lot to unpack here.
We do?
But we're just getting started.
I can't wait.
Me too.
Let's dive in.
Let's do it. It feels like we're having two separate conversations here, you know?
What do you mean?
Like, on one hand, we're talking about artistic merit, but then on the other hand, it's all about commercial success and fan influence.
And those two things don't always line up.
Right, exactly.
That's the tension at the heart of all these award shows.
Yeah.
Like take Bad Bunny, for example.
Oh, yeah.
His album, Un Verano Sin Ti.
Huge.
It was the first Spanish-language album nominated for Album of the Year.
Which is crazy when you think about it.
Right. I mean, it was a global phenomenon.
It was everywhere. Topping charts, breaking streaming records. Yeah. But it didn't win.
Which kind of proves the point we were making earlier.
About artists hitting a ceiling.
Yeah, no matter how big their impact is.
So then what are we really measuring here?
Right, what matters more?
Is it like pushing boundaries musically?
Or lyrical depth?
Or having a huge cultural impact?
Or is it just about popularity?
Which can be influenced by all sorts of things outside of the music itself.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Speaking of cultural impact.
Yeah.
The sources bring up Frank Ocean.
Ah, yes.
Who's known for like really pushing the boundaries of R&B.
With his lyrics and his production.
Super introspective and experimental.
But his case is interesting because he's basically opted out at the Grammys.
He?
What? Yeah, he doesn't even submit his music for consideration anymore.
Why?
He said that he finds the whole institution, like, outdated.
Wow.
Irrelevant to his generation.
That's a bold statement.
It is.
I mean, it suggests that maybe artists can find success outside of these systems.
It makes you wonder what winning even means.
Yeah, is it about the trophy or is it about something else?
Like connecting with your audience.
Regardless of what these institutions say.
It's almost like that age-old question, you know?
The tree falling in the forest.
Exactly. If a groundbreaking album comes out...
and the Grammys aren't there to give it an award.
Does it even matter?
It really comes down to our values as listeners.
Right. Do we let these institutions tell us what's good?
Or do we decide for ourselves?
Based on our own criteria.
Okay, so we've got systemic bias.
Yes.
We've got fan bases.
Right.
And we've got artists like Frank Ocean just saying no thanks to the whole thing.
It's a mess.
It kind of is. So is there any way to fix it?
Well, one of our sources has an interesting thought experiment.
Oh, really?
They imagined Beyoncé releasing a country album called Cowboy Carter.
That's a great title.
I know, right?
But Beyoncé going country.
It plays with all these preconceived notions we have about genre and race.
Because country music.
Even though it has roots in black musical traditions.
It's seen as a very white space.
Exactly. So Beyoncé entering that space.
Especially with an album that explores those black roots.
Could be a huge moment.
I mean, imagine the conversations it would spark.
About cultural ownership, appropriation.
Who gets to make certain types of music?
Would the industry even embrace it?
Or would they try to like shove it into a box?
And downplay its significance.
Plus, you have to think about the potential backlash.
Oh, totally remember what happened when she performed Daddy Lessons at the CMAs.
Yeah, that did not go over well with some people.
It showed how resistant some parts of that community are to acknowledging black influence.
So Cowboy Carter becomes this test case.
For the whole industry.
Are they actually ready for change?
Would they finally give Beyoncé her due?
Or would they fall back on old patterns?
It's fascinating to think about.
It really is. It's like we're imagining a different future for music.
Where genre doesn't matter as much.
And talent is recognized no matter what.
That's the dream.
It is. But it feels like we're back to this idea of gatekeeping.
Yeah, who gets to decide what's real country or real hip-hop?
And who benefits from keeping those boundaries in place?
The question is, are those gates there to maintain some standard of quality?
Or are they there to keep certain people out?
Our sources seem to think that true gatekeeping
shouldn't be about exclusion.
No, it should be about supporting artists who push boundaries.
Who challenge us as listeners.
And make us think differently about music.
So it's not about closing the gates entirely.
It's about making sure they're not arbitrarily shutting people out.
People who deserve to be heard.
Exactly, and that requires a shift in perspective.
From everyone.
The institutions and the listeners.
We need to be more critical of what we're being told.
More aware of the biases at play.
And more willing to listen to different voices.
It's about broadening our horizons.
And that brings us back to the fans.
Oh, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who have the power.
They're the ones driving demand.
Buying the album, streaming the music.
Making artists successful.
So we have to be mindful of that power.
We can choose to support artists who we believe in.
Who challenge the status quo.
Who represent a more inclusive vision of music.
So it's not just about listening passively.
It's about actively engaging.
Thinking critically about the music.
And using our voices to support the artists we want to see succeed.
Because we can shape the future of music?
If we make the right choices.
That's a powerful thought.
It is. We have more agency than we realize.
So, like, what does all this mean for the average listener? You know, someone at home.
Right.
Trying to figure out this whole music world and all these award shows.
Well, it means being an active participant.
Okay.
You can't just accept what you're being told.
So, like, do your own research.
Yeah, dig deeper, explore different genres.
Find new artists.
And try to challenge your own assumptions.
It's like we're all music detectives.
Haha, I like that.
Trying to solve this mystery of how race and genre and artistic merit all fit together.
And sometimes they don't fit together.
Right, that's the problem.
But the more informed we are as listeners,
yeah,
the better choices we can make.
Choices that reflect our values.
Exactly.
So let's say you're on the Grammy voting committee.
Okay.
What are you looking for in a winner?
That's a tough one.
What would you say defines artistic excellence?
For me, I'd want to see work that pushes boundaries. Music that sparks important conversations.
Music that reflects the world around us.
Yeah, the diversity of human experience.
Well, it was not just about being a good singer or musician.
It's about the impact that the music has.
On culture and society.
Exactly.
And it's about recognizing that innovation can come from anywhere.
Any genre, any background.
It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from.
If you've got something to say, the world needs to hear it.
I love that. So after this deep dive.
Yeah.
I'm actually feeling kind of hopeful.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with all the problems we've talked about.
I know, it's messy.
But music is powerful.
Oh, it is.
It can break down barriers and challenge norms and connect us.
In ways that nothing else can.
And the more we engage with it critically.
And support artists who are doing something different.
The better music will become.
The future of music is bright.
I think so too.
Well, that's it for this deep dive.
Into the wild world of music awards.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic.
Can't wait.
Until then, keep listening, keep questioning, and keep believing in the power of music.
That's what it's all about.
Thanks for joining us.